Over the past couple of weeks, we've heard from civic officials, life coaches, local businesses making a difference. The program committee is always interested in your ideas for a presentation and anything you'd like to hear about. This week, we have a wonderful presentation from Tom Attea in New York State due to Jamal's great contacts, and we thank him greatly. Does the Walter Mitty and you ever dream about being an author or a playwright or a lyricist or maybe a highly sought after copywriter, creating that copy that lingers in your mind, like "Where's the beef?" or "Illuminate the world"? Well, Tom Attea has done all those things, and he has a host of awards to show how successful he's been. You see, Tom is a solution creator, and his tools are simple: words and pictures. He sees his writing efforts as a sacred trust with his clients. I'm looking forward today to hear how Tom uses his pen, which is mightier than the sword, and pictures worth 1,000 words to create a force on the internet. Fellow Rotarians, please welcome Tom Attea.
It's a pleasure to be here. And I would like to thank Tom Knollmann, Tom Bowman for setting this up, and Jamal for introducing me to the possibility of this. Jamal is a wonderful human being and a smart human being, and he's thankfully a client. We came to like each other a lot, and he heard some of the way I think and thought that it might be helpful to you. And so we decided that we would talk about something that should be of great interest to everybody, which is my little pooch is making some racket in the kitchen. So, but to talk about the challenges, not just the challenge, we all know the challenges we face today because of COVID. So I thought, and Jamal thought, that I could tell you some of the ways that you could solve some of your problems or help yourselves along. And if I can do that little thing in the next 15 or 20 minutes, I will be delighted. We all finally find our value in how we serve our fellow human beings. And I found my way to serve it is I try to help my clients be successful. And I know that allows them to pay their bills, get raises, send their kids to college, do all these wonderful things. And that's why he's mentioned, I call it a sacred trust, because all these people go to work every day, they produce a certain profit, and they take a little of it and they give it to you and say, please tell people what we do so we can be successful, right? So that's what I like to think of my role. And so let me just go on here and cover this for you. The thing is that I have a different approach that's very good on the internet, and I would like to explain it to you. I work on the internet all the time. I used to work more in traditional advertising. The most famous thing I wrote 12 commercials for Dr. Pepper that became a minor form of national levity. I've also written landmark copy for Grey Poupon and other major consumer products. And lots of awards. I've won every award you can win, including 4 Clios in one night. That's the little gold statue for commercials, right? So enough of that. I just wanted to establish my credibility a little bit. One of the challenges we all face is describing who we are by sticking with the facts. And so we don't sound like boastful, So anyway, most people who think of advertising think that all the creativity is a mystery. Well, it's not. And the first step to getting better advertising for your company is to understand exactly what it is, and I'll explain it. The next thing is to understand exactly what a brand position is so you can work with it and understand it. And then you want to understand something that I will tell you that, as I think, is the simplest expression of anybody that anybody has ever made of what the goal of all of this work is. Okay, so let me start by explaining exactly what advertising is, because it's not a mystery. It is the appropriate visual and verbal magnification of the selling proposition, right? So not magnified to the point where it's incredible, but magnified to dramatize, to demonstrate it, right? Appropriate visual and verbal magnification. Now, this is a great tool because now when you sit in front of the television and you hear somebody make a claim, you can say, does that sound like the ideal visual? Does that sound like the ideal copy? And you will find that 99% of the time, it isn't. That's why McDonald's is stuck with I'm loving it, which I could give to Burger King tomorrow, and why Ford has Go Further, which I could give to General Motors tomorrow. They're investing in nothing. Now, so once we understand that appropriate, credible magnification is the key, we can look at what we like. Now, the next thing is there are 3 questions that we have to ask in all advertising, and it's really simple. The first question is, what is the right thing to say? What is it? Now, the agency usually gets that from the client because the client knows his business better than the agency. And we have a tool for that. It's a creative brief. And I'll go through it a little bit, and it gives the client the convenient, organized way to tell you what he's doing. Now the agency job is how to express what he's doing. So we have what to say and how to say it. And the only other question left is, where do we say it? And so those are the 3 big questions. What do we say? How do we say it? And where do we say it? Most advertising proceeds along the lines of, gee, that's good advertising. That's great advertising. And that is not ideal advertising. Ideal advertising is strategically right and creatively bright. Okay? It's the key that fits the lock to the biggest marketing opportunity. And that's what you want to the extent you can get it from your agency or whoever you work with. So what is right and what is bright? Optimally, strategically optimal, and creatively optimal. What is that? Okay, here's a very simple way to work with it. And that is, the whole goal of this is to make, the most appealing brand promise to your target market that you can. And then to prove it with every credible support point you have. So make a promise and prove it. Okay? Lots of stuff on the internet is about big promises and very little proof. Yet most people who go to a website or any place on the internet arrive with tremendous skepticism. They don't want to believe you. You have to convince them. So the thing is, what happens then is on the internet, the homepage headline becomes very critical. It's more important than an ad. Why? Because the average visit to a website is 7 seconds or less, and 58% of people don't scroll. So you have to captivate them, and you have to captivate them through perfectly expressed, self-interest. What you do that's of interest to them, and that's the brand promise. Now, 99% of people in this country get a headline from their agency or whoever they're working with for their homepage, and they get copy and they cross their fingers and hope it works. Well, I realized this was silly because the client's lifeblood depends on that headline. So I created a unique approach called the Brand Promise Exploratory. So what it is that I get the client to create a brief, and I put little explanations in there. And the creative brief is a very insightful document because it asks for your overview so that the person who's working on it can see your business from your point of view. Then we get to the most difficult question for almost every business person to answer. And even the brightest people have to walk around the barn a couple of times to figure this out. And that is, what is your primary brand promise? What is it? If somebody said to you, tell me what you do in one sentence that should convince me to work with you, what would that sentence be? Hmm? Yes, most clients give you back a paragraph, but some do figure it out. Now, the next question, that's the substance of the headline, you see, because that's the promise. Now, you get to fudge it in the next section, which is the secondary brand promises. What else are you doing? Hmm? And then you get to the primary support point, a reason to believe, the promise. Then you get to the secondary support points, or more reasons to believe the promise. Because if I can make the most appealing brand promise I can, and I can prove it with every credible support point I have, when I ask for the conversion or the sale, I'm most likely to get it. Now, there's something else. There are other things that I've learned that work on the internet, and they work especially well during COVID. And I have a couple of clients. I'm working right now on a disinfectant that will change the world. The chairman was in touch with Anthony Fauci for a week, for an hour this week. And he's been in touch with the king, the Queen of England. But what it is, it's a disinfectant that not only sprays and kills COVID instantly, it kills it for 30 days or more. And also it can be impregnated into masks and gloves, any fabric, any latex, anything. And it's effective for over 30 washes. So it's really any kind of COVID that runs into this thing is gone. All right. So, and then I have another client who they're the biggest package producer, business packages in Australia. They converted a lot of their stuff to making face masks with their to help the people, Australians along. And I wrote, a landing page and an email for them. So I'm involved in it. So what I'm saying to you is, let's get back to this. How do we optimize what we're doing? Instead of just writing a homepage, I try, and I recommend you do, to ask your agency to try to create a poster for conversion above the fold. And that, what I mean by that is you arrive there and it's what you see before you scroll. And what I try to do is put that ideal headline there, which you can choose, because when I do the brand promise exploratory, I don't just send you a headline. I send you a recommended headline. I send you about 10 other favorites. And I send you just, maybe a page of other ones I came up with that I think still have value. So now you're very empowered, because for the first time in advertising, you can pick your critical headline, not just because somebody recommended it, but because you can see it with a view to the likely option. This is very powerful, because when you choose it, you can feel confident in it. Okay. So now we put that headline up there. We write one sentence to select our audience. Most people don't understand. When you write your first words, you select your audience, okay? And we select them by their need state, or as they say, their pain points, whatever. And the next sentence promises them the ideal solution. Then we put in bullet points the proof of the promise. And then we ask for the first conversion. And this is how we get that poster for conversion on the home page. Now, you will capture the low-hanging fruit that's very interested, and they will click, to contact you or schedule a meeting or whatever you're asking for, whatever the call to action is. The next thing is, it will persuade a lot of people to scroll. So the little carrot is there, and they start to go down and they get some more details. Now, we try to tell the core story on the homepage, but we do something else. Most people think a website is made up of a bunch of different pages. It's not. It's a brand story told on separate pages. So the way we unify it is we theme everything back to the brand promise. So the about page is how you're the company or the people who can deliver on the brand promise. The products or services page is about how you have the products or services to deliver on the promise. You see how it works? And because it's unified, it has greater impact and stickiness. People get involved in the wholeness. Okay? Oh, I ran the coffee training program at Young and Rubicam for 5 years. And I used to tell the kids, this is what impact is. If I take a broom and hit you over the head with the straw in, you don't feel anything. But if I turn it around and hit you over the head with a handle, it really hurts. Okay? That's unity, that's impact. Okay? Now, once you have that and you have your headline, everything you do in every communication channel, whether it's a phone call, a press release, whatever, an email, you theme it to the promise. So that now, because look, your brand promise is like the tip of a nail. You put it on a board, which is your target market. And everything you do should be like the tap of a hammer that drives the point into the market, because it's that unity that will let you penetrate the market. I got a call from an author who was writing a book on advertising and asked me for a quote about how you build brands, and I'll share it with you. Now, every category is like a city block. It's a skyscape. And the tallest building is what we call top of mind. It's worth billions of dollars. For instance, when I say, go to the toothpaste category and I say, toothpaste, you think Crest. It's top of mind. It's the tallest building in the category. Question is, how do you build a building in the category? The first thing is, once you lay in the foundation, you never tear it up and start over again. That's part of the magic of the brand promise. Once you select it, you should be able to build on it for years to come. Then every communication you make should be like a window, a door, a floor, right? In the brand building, so that over time, you build top of mind awareness in the category. So these tools, I know that it's a lot to digest all at once, but they're tremendously effective. And now I want to explain one more thing. And that is exactly what a brand position is. Because most people don't understand it technically. What does that headline really consist of? It really consists of a very, very winning way to express what we call the frame of reference and the point of difference. The frame of reference, those are the two components of a brand position. The frame of reference is the largest category in which you can credibly do business. That's where your customers are. That's where the most customers are. And the point or points of difference are the reasons to create brand preference in the category. So a simple explanation is, like the decaffeinated coffee that's naturally decaffeinated. And we look at that and we say, what's the frame of reference? Well, we're talking about the decaffeinated category. And the point of difference is that it's naturally decaffeinated. But maybe that's not too bright. Maybe if we could expand the frame of reference to all coffee and say that it tastes as good as any coffee, we can get even more business, right? We have to make that judgment in the frame of reference. We get to the point of difference and we say it's naturally decaffeinated, but is that really the end benefit? No, it's that it tastes good. So that's the naturally decaffeinated coffee, right? I mean, you could do that. We could put it there. It could be, well, we just do the decaffeinated coffee that's naturally decaffeinated and tastes great, right? So we have a dual point of difference. So this is what I'm saying. So it's the frame of reference, the business I'm in, and the point of difference or points of difference that allow me to create brand preference in the category. So that is exactly what a brand position is. And then these tools that I've discussed with you, will give you a very, very good head start. And I'll just say a couple of other things that I think you'll find helpful. Okay. And one of them has to do with if you happen to have a new product you're trying to introduce, especially now, and there are a lot of websites all the time. Most people come out and they say, oh, it's amazing, it's incredible, and that's what they want. That's not the way you successfully introduce a new product. I've done it for Kraft as a consultant. Kraft, Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, Bristol-Myers Squibb. Latest one I did was for Fuji, the Instax digital camera, which is, I did the original concepts. What they show to consumers about the idea to see if they like it. So the thing is, and I'm always telling the clients this, what you want to do is present a new product so it appears to be something that should have always been there, but somehow wasn't. And then people can adapt to it as fast as they have to, because the average shelf life for a new product is about 6 months before the stores start to pull it. You have to sell fast. But what happens is, metaphorically, when you introduce something new, you create a new island. And most people, when the more you say amazing, fantastic, unprecedented, the more you have to ask people to swim to it because they're not familiar with it. The trick is to build a bridge that begins in the familiar and leads to the new island so they can walk right over to it and adopt it. So you always try to relate it to what exists and to express how it's better or different. And those are, critical lessons. Takes a long time to learn. And I always tell my clients, on the road to success, never climb a mountain you don't have to. In other words, take the pass because the success is on the other side, and the most efficient way to get there is the way you want to go there. I think that my 20 minutes, I have 20 minutes. I think that I pretty much used it up. And I know that I've told you a lot. Oh, I'd like to tell you, keep in mind that the brand promise I told you, make the promise and prove it, is the consumer way to do it. The old thing, I think it's old, was the unique selling proposition, Rotary's idea. But that's so sales oriented. Today we're in a consumer economy, and that's why I don't use it. And another thing, just so you know how useful this is, the usual instructions in advertising like that, this is the last thing I'll say, like the AIDA principle, right? Gain attention, right? Develop interest, right? Create desire and elicit action, right? What's wrong with that? It's all about effects, and you can't work with effects. You can tell people to do those things, but how do you do it? You have to work with causes, all right? Causes. So the things that I've told you, I've written 3 books about it. I'm not trying to pump the books. They sell well enough, but if anybody's interested, the latest one, and I think the one that explains it best, is The Creative Copywriter's Companion, and you can buy it anywhere you like. It's if you Google copywriting books on Amazon, it's already on the first page out of some thousands of books. Okay, so anyway, I'd like to throw it open to anybody who has any questions.